This is the Surly Grognards for November 4th, 2014. This is Peter Bowman, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
I am a thing that exists.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't get much sleep last night.
I got zero sleep last night.
Not good. I didn't get much either.
Yeah, this is gonna go well.
Yeah. That's why I decided to do something sort of brainstormy, because,
Sleep depth is the perfect time to do brainstorming.
It kind of is, honestly. Also, oh my god, it's November already.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
And the first person who plays a Christmas tune that I hear, I will kill. It's not Thanksgiving yet. You're not allowed to play Christmas music until after Thanksgiving.
You're not allowed to play Christmas music at all, fuckers.
I've given up on that aspect, Eric.
No, Christmas music is terrible, and nobody ever likes it. Except for, like, the one woman in the office.
I admit there's some Christmas music I don't hate. I don't mind Christmas carols for the most part. Actual carols, people being sung by sung a cappella.
Right.
I don't mind that. And my mom has this fantastic Christmas CD, which is called Blue Yule. It is entirely a bunch of blues musicians doing blues-themed Christmas music. Or Christmas-themed blues music, really.
So, songs about, like, how his wife left him on Christmas because he did too much cocaine and now he's in this crappy dive bar playing blues songs for you?
I think some of them might be something like that. But yeah, there's
That's pretty much every blues song ever.
No, not always, but yeah. But there's one titled "Santa's Been Messing with the Kid," and there's "Messing with the Kid" is a long traditional blues staple. So but it's a fun little CD, and it's very different. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight.
9.
So what we're going to do tonight is something we've not tried before on stream, and I don't think we've really done it. Well, we sort of done it a couple of shows. We've sort of spitballed a few ideas back and forth just for amusement. But what I thought we'd try to do this week is do a little brainstorming and coming up with just to brainstorm up a campaign concept between the two of us, because I think it'd be kind of interesting to see how campaign for people who haven't really done this before, to see how that sort of thing happens. Now, yes. Eric and I have very different. We come from different angles on role-playing games in general, for the most part.
Yeah.
Eric's mostly a player. I'm mostly a game master. And
this is true.
Eric tends to favor certain aspects of the games he runs, as opposed when he does run games, as opposed to ones I tend to run. We tend to focus on slightly different aspects of role-playing games in general.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't sort of brainstorm something up hilarious. Or maybe awesome. Who knows?
Hilariously awesome.
We could go for that.
Awesomely terrible.
That is also a distinct possibility.
That is probably the most likely possibility.
Yeah. So, all right. So the question that, so there are lots of different ways you can go about coming up with a role-playing game campaign. We've talked about this on the show before. You can start with the overall concept that you want for the type of game you want to run, and then build outwards, and then decide on a system. Or you could pick a system that you really want to run, and try to build a game around that. Those are the two main starting points.
Yeah, those are pretty much the two main ones.
Right. So my gut feeling is maybe we should start with something that most people would be familiar with.
All right, let's start with your standard
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah. Standard high fantasy type.
Standard high fantasy, and we'll just assume basically Dungeons and Dragons, so that we have a common sort of language of races and monsters and classes. It's a good place to start, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good place to start.
And we could spin it into a different. And from there we could definitely spin it into a different system if we wanted to, or who knows. But we're not going to pick a particular edition, because honestly, as a general rule of thumb,
you don't need to really. When you're starting with campaigns, unless you've got very specific ideas to how things work, you really don't need to worry too much about mechanics.
Right. I'd agree with that completely.
It's not
So
until you start plotting shit out where you need to start worrying and planning encounters, you need to start worrying about that shit.
right, but the reason, as I said, we chose I decided suggested D&D is because it has a certain common language to it that most role players are familiar with.
Yes.
If you're talking D&D, you can say fighter, and for the most part, people get the general idea of what a fighter in a D&D game is.
Right.
You
And
can
orc
say
means a particular thing in D&D as opposed to, say, Games Workshop or,
Tolkien.
yeah, 10,000 other different things. Because everyone seems to have their own idea of what an orc is.
Right. Yeah, a GW orc is very different from a D&D orc, which is actually very different from a Tolkien orc.
Yes.
Because, oh my god, Tolkien orcs are much more badass than D&D orcs.
Yes, they are.
As a random aside, before we go any further, there actually was I don't know if it's still in print, Middle Earth role-playing game.
Which is actually really good, despite using the Rollmaster system.
Yeah, it's shockingly not bad. One of the things I kind of think is really neat about it is they managed to make elves really badass, but there's reasons to play other races that are,
Yeah, because they get, like, friggin' no fate points.
yeah, none. Yeah, Noldor elf, immense badass, 2 background points.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably the most broken race in that game are the hobbits.
Yeah, because they get, like, what, 5 or something?
They get 5. They get 5.
Yeah.
Like they get as many, if not more than most, even the humans.
Yeah.
And their abilities are actually really good. They're just not very good at being straight up melee fighters.
Because, Hobbit.
Right, because Hobbit. But if you want to
Seriously
play,
enough, whenever I played Iron Crown, the old Iron Crown role-playing game, like, no one played fucking hobbits.
really,
Yeah. It was elves and humans, pretty much every variety of human, and no one would let me play an orc.
well, no, because they're broken. They'd be broken at that. Because orcs are fucking badass. I ran a game one time, and I had an encounter which was like a couple of orcs and a couple of wargs backing them up. And the
Right.
players just assumed, oh, well, it's just a couple of orcs. What the hell? We're not worried at all. They went in. They're like, oh my god, what are these things? They're Tolkien orcs. They're badasses. They're dangerous. They're not
Yeah.
just grunt troops. I mean, they are, but at level 1, so are you. Oh, they're built like player characters. Oh,
Yes.
and wargs are terrifying.
Yes.
So, but that's sort of so when we talk about an orc, when we're doing this, if we talk about orcs, you'll know what that means in a D&D context,
Right.
as opposed to a Tolkien context or a Games Workshop context, or
Yeah,
some
'cause
other
Games Workshop orcs are actually remarkably... They're bigger badasses than friggin' Tolkien orcs.
for the most part. Yeah,
They're dumb as stumps, but they just don't go down.
right. Or say a Shadowrun orc, which is an entirely different.
Which is an entirely different thing.
Yeah. So we're starting off with Dungeons and Dragons as a basic thing. So here's the question: the first question you start off with is honestly sort of what type of feel do we want to go with it? Honestly,
Yeah, that's like do
scope
we
and
want
scale.
Yeah. How big of a big damn heroes are we talking here?
Right. And you can start at different levels of you can start out at not particularly big damn heroes, but plan for the game to get to the point where the players are big damn heroes.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the first choice we'd have to make.
And that's always tough because I always feel like you should, as a player, you should always like expect to eventually become a big damn hero, and then as far as I'm concerned, the game's done because once you're a big damn hero, whatever. But I've found when running a game, I'm really not prepared to make people big damn heroes.
Whereas
I keep on trying to do like street level stuff. I'm like, God damn it! Stop punching out warjacks.
Well, that's the Iron Kingdoms thing. Is your player characters are pretty damn
Just
badass.
as my most recent example.
Yeah, well, that was yeah. Player characters in Iron Kingdoms are much more badass than they are in a lot of other starting games.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but like
It caught you off guard,
it caught me off guard.
right?
That was supposed to be a fight. What the fuck, guys?
But at any rate, so I guess really the question is what would we want? What do we want to plan for at this point? I mean,
Yeah,
I,
I think we should presume starting out like not particularly scary, like level one schmuckos,
I okay,
but because we're talking D&D, let's start everyone at level one.
all right.
Typical D&D campaign.
Well, let's assume that we're starting somewhere between level 1 and level 3, and that it would depend on which system we're using. I would say,
Yeah, yeah.
which version of D&D, because some versions of D&D I think start or work better if you start a little bit higher level.
3.5 is really third. Level 3, and then you get to play for 4 levels before the wizard becomes broken.
Right. And so and honestly, given that we're not picking a system, we could sort of say we're aiming for something of sort of like a mini series, not like a huge epic ongoing campaign to start with.
Right.
All right, so
So, yeah, so next is like what tech level are we talking here?
right, that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah,
well,
it's Dungeons and Dragons. Are we talking like typical like high Middle Ages? Are we going like dirt farming post plague Dark Ages? Are we like the waning edges of the Roman Empire, or
are we
like
talking like
early Renaissance?
or do you want to go for something wacky like Eberron-ish, like Magitech stuff?
Yeah,
That's a good question. Well, the other question we have to ask is, do we want I mean, urban, wide world
right.
adventuring, dungeon
Oh,
crawl? I mean,
I mean all of the yeah, like let's do like let's say Dark Ages, but let's encourage everyone to play more the primal classes like barbarians and druids and wardens and whatnot, and do the
okay,
whole like clandestine secret society in the woods type of deal.
all right, we can start with that.
And that could
Actually,
be yeah,
okay, we could go from
mostly
there.
because I've never done that before.
We can go with that. I like that's definitely interesting. Encourage that, but allow other types of
Yeah.
things to be there. So from there, so we're starting out sort of out in the world, big wide world, because and so why is it Dark Ages currently? Um,
Oh, let's say there was a major human empire that
okay,
had come up in the wake of a catastrophic war between the elves and dwarves, because they're always bickering.
all right,
And the human empire lasted a few hundred years before a major orc uprising came, and the problem was no one was prepared for the degree of pestilence that comes with that kind of sudden major uprising and like institutions being torn down.
that's a possibility. I like that.
So yeah, a combination of rebuilding after war and major pestilence, and it's a real grim Dark Ages to sort of encourage the dark and dangerous woods kind of
All
aspect.
right, that's one thing. That's definitely a possibility. The thought I was having was that you basically start again, like the campaign's taking place in the remnants of what was a big empire of some sort.
Yeah,
But I was thinking more sort of major magical catastrophe that sort of so throwing things in sort
yeah,
of a
actually,
more.
yeah. It's fucking Dungeons and Dragons. Why are we dealing with like actual real world causes for the Dark Ages? Yeah,
I was thinking sort of going almost sort of quasi post apocalyptic type stuff.
yeah, yeah. That's a good plan. Like the arcane equivalent of the Higgs boson went like the Higgs boson Heart Lord Hadron Collider thing, like totally
Actually,
went
went
the
all tits
direction
up.
of all the crazy paranoid theories because
Right.
magic.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you've got this big like reality warping wasteland in the heart of the empire,
Right. Exactly.
or
So
the
you got
former empire.
so that gives you like the really the bleak landscapes you want for certain aspects. It gives you all sorts of ruins for the players to explore,
Yes.
and like remnants from that empire that they could quest after for and like I like the overall arcing thing is sort of slowly trying to figure out what actually happened and maybe rebuilding
And maybe rebuilding. Yeah.
right as sort of an end goal type thing.
It also lets you go into the whole like bizarre like almost dreamscape aspect, but as you go closer to the heart of the catastrophe.
Exactly, and you can start busting at some of the really weird monsters.
Yeah, like the friggin' ropers and the and Zorn and whatnot.
Because all of a sudden they make and beholders and shit like that, like the
Yeah,
aberrant creatures. Because all of a sudden they make a lot more sense.
yeah.
All
You can
right,
do things with like wacky gravity, like and floating castles and shit.
absolutely, and
Like, how do we get up to that ruin? It's floating 100 feet in the air.
right, exactly, some shit like that. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a sort of a swath of a broad strokes of a sort of a campaign setting. So okay, so that's the first step. We've got sort of okay. There was an empire, magical apocalypse. Like magic went something. Wizards did something bad. Kaboom!
Wizards, always the like evil mad scientist of the fantasy world.
Yeah. And we've got why is X? Why does things work this way? A wizard did it. And in this case, it's literally true. So okay, that's sort of our starting point there. And I like your idea of sort of basically the players being from like the fringes of being from the fringes and more sort of.
Yeah,
So you've got like they're sort of on the fringes, sort of between the wastelands and the really dark, scary parts of the woods that are now infested with stuff that has
should not be.
that has crept back out of the shadows because they're no longer being driven back by civilization.
Yeah. So not only do you have like friggin' like on you've got the donut of things not sucking as much as they could,
Right, exactly.
because you've got the epicenter where you've got like fucking beholders and like gibbering mouthers and whatnot, and then you got the real outlet, and then you have the outlands with like the roving bands of like orcs and hobgoblins and like some of the nastier shit like wyverns and
and
owl
dragons
bears.
and dragons and like
Yeah,
or like and you could like have like shit like the wild hunt start showing up.
yeah, yeah. Actually, you start playing with the all sorts of the creepier aspects of Fatum.
Exactly.
Ooh, ooh. What about the like you're set on this quest by like an old hedge wizard or witch, and in order to like you need to go exploring because she needs something there, and she whatever the MacGuffin might be. Except it turns out that the old lady is effectively Baba Yaga.
Interesting.
So you've got like this semi-deity who's like attached to the land and is both like both sort of a guardian of the people and a predator of them.
Interesting.
So yeah, except as far as you're concerned, she's a nice little old lady with some magical knowledge. And her creepier and darker aspects don't start showing up until after you've done a lot of work for her. You start questioning whether or not you should have been working for her in the first place.
Okay, I like that.
That's me going total dark side here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I like that. It's definitely a good starting point. I think it's a good thing, and I like having that character in there as
Yeah.
someone that you work with, or maybe even does it like hire you to do basically sort of
Yeah,
quote, hire you to do stuff. But I think another sort of, and I think there should be more than just one possibility thing like that. Like we could throw in also like the players basically being hired to investigate stuff and look for relics and such that could be useful to help like start rebuilding civilization by like a group of descendants from like people who are like descended from the ruling family of the empire or something like that.
Oh, and the stuff that's really valuable isn't like the magic staff of badass magery, but like how to build an aqueduct.
Right, exactly.
That's what people actually need and want.
So like there are a lot of quests like going out and like they're like dungeon crawls, but you're what you're and like the players will be picking up like magical loot that'll make things easier for them in future. But what they're really questing for are tomes of knowledge and information. So this is weird cross from like
Basic agriculture 101.
right. So you start getting sort of almost like Indiana Jones's aspects to it occasionally.
Yeah.
But you're looking for relics of history. All right, that's a good point there. So that's a possibility, and then you've got the whole sort of the old witch. You know, her with her own set of goals is trying. Basically, it looks like she's helping the players in what they're doing with the recovering knowledge to rebuild civilization. But are her goals entirely in line with that?
Right.
And gives you a nice sort of little dichotomy there, because she sort of represents the more wild side of
Yeah,
things.
she might be trying to suppress some of the more civilizing aspects of that.
Right. So you've got a little conflict there between the two aspects that the players get to choose where they want to end up on the spectrum, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm liking this so far.
Yeah.
All right, so the next big question I got is we got to build some of the backstory here. So what was what sort of empire was it? Is the question.
Let's have it like initially described to the players as like the sort of as sort of like the golden time, like the great empire, and everything was awesome there, and everyone always had enough to eat, blah 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 blah. And like as you start like going on, you start to figure out the old witch might not necessarily have a bad idea in trying to stop the resurrection of the empire, because it sustained itself on conquest and slave labor.
Interesting.
So as long as you're a citizen, things are awesome. But most people weren't actually citizens.
All right. Well, and we can add in sort of a little twist of that on that, and sort of start throwing some stuff from like Rome.
Yes,
Where,
exactly. That's exactly where I was going.
I know that's where you're going with it, but like and like those who were enslaved had opportunity to become citizens. As
Yeah,
they could buy.
they could buy out their contract, basically.
Right, exactly. So it's not total dark side. It's
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not like friggin' like the Atlantic slave trade here.
right, exactly. I like that. Yeah, because and then we've got sort of the fall of Rome type thing, and
Yeah,
I'm liking
except
this.
it didn't happen because of political corruption and an inability to sustain itself through conquest, but because someone blew something up.
Well, also, and and that's partially due to that could be partially due to those
Yeah,
that the sort
those
of
tendencies.
those tendencies, because there's less oversight over the mages doing the research and such. They had larger and larger, more and more free reign at what they could do.
There might even have been political pressure to make things easier.
Ooh, I like that.
Like there was huge political pressure to rush through, say, mass teleportation, and that's what actually caused it.
Right, something like that. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because it was like, well, we can set up a teleport nodes to move stuff around. It's going to take decades of research. It's like, no, you got a year. What?
All right,
but we haven't even been through like basic theory. We haven't even built the theoretical models yet, and you want us to do a live test? That's a good plan. I like that.
I like it. I like that a lot.
Because it's not like some wizard doing like getting all like friggin' cartoon villain mustache twirly. I will destroy the world. Blah. It's like, no, I'm trying to do something good for people. I'm trying to develop a mass transit system using teleportation, but no one's letting me actually take the precautions necessary.
Right. Like, so you discover the concept of doing this and like present it to the
Yeah,
to
this is theoretically possible. Give us funding. Sure. Is it done yet? You just gave us funding. We're not even out of the meeting yet, but you better get this done in a week. What do you mean a week?
No, we need this We need this teleportation technology to move our armies to the border so we continue our conquest.
Yeah.
I like this. Okay. So there's this sort of weird dichotomy in the empire between there's a lot of really good that comes from it. You feel like the sanitation,
Yeah.
the overall standard of living is very high, even for the slaves.
Yes. Actual running water in a lot of places.
Right.
And you still have like neighborhood wells and stuff, but yeah, it's fresh and it's refueled by aqueducts, that kind of thing.
Right.
There's actually a university system in there, so there's like higher learning.
Right.
It sustains itself entirely on the conquest and exploitation of new lands and peoples, and has a the political system is corrupt and short-sighted.
Yep, I like it. And it may have started. Not, it didn't may not have started out that way, but it's become.
No, but that's how it ended up.
Right, exactly, because that's
That's how empires end up.
most of the time, yeah. All right, so we've got that. That's sort of a good background there. That gives a solid sort of history, a feel of history for the story. And that whole empire is just driving outward and conquering stuff. It's forcing the wild further and further back.
Right.
Which is why it's pushing back so much now.
Exactly.
All right, so we got that.
Which is why the Fae are the more grouply Fae creatures are so much more aggressive than they ever have been.
Right, because they've got opportunity and less opposition.
Yes.
I like it.
And a lot of them are long-lived enough to remember how things were beforehand.
Right. I like that. Yes.
It's like, no, you don't get to do this shit again.
Oh, we're not letting you do that again. What do you mean you're not letting us
We
do
remember
that?
what happened. No.
But it was good. For you? It sucked for us.
You know how hard it was to eat babies back then?
We don't want you eating babies. There are babies. Stop that. Always eat a few babies and people complain. I mean, really. Not like we're eating all of the babies. I mean, we'd like to, but we're not going to.
Because that would be dumb.
That kills off our food supply eventually. I mean, really. All right, so we have sort of a general conceit for the world,
Right.
and we've got a sort of general theme for what the campaign looks like. And I think we do start off with the party being the players being somewhere between level 1 and level 3.
Right.
And I think sort of opening sort of adventure type thing, honestly, I think ends up basically being like defending their home village against an attack, like a raid from either the wild or from the weird stuff. The less
Right.
powerful versions of those things, obviously, because
Yeah, because we're gonna drop beholders and the wild hunt and
on starting
a
characters,
legion of she knights on them.
right. But I think that's a good way for the players to get sort of introduced to each other, and they get to operate together. They get to find out who each other are and how much they can trust each other, and it builds them enough of a name that it attracts the attention of both,
Their
of both
various
the old witch and of the remnants of the empire.
the Reconstructionists, we'll call
The
them.
Reconstructionists. I like that. Good one, Eric. All right, so we got the
Yeah,
Reconstructionists.
because now you've got like two vaguely creepy sounding people that you have the option of working for: the old witch and the Reconstructionists.
But like both of them don't present themselves fully as that to begin with, because they're still
Exactly.
testing out the players early on. Like, hey, you guys did a really good job help sort of organize the defense of this village. We'd like you to go. There's a book that is reputed to be in this abandoned library over here. That's the forest has grown up around, and we'd like you guys to go there and investigate, see if you can recover the book. It's just this. It's an old history book. Talks about the sort of how to build like how to build a better well, basically.
Yeah.
And like the player's like, oh, that makes sense. That'd be useful. That would help our village and help every. Sure, why not?
That sounds like a great idea.
And you start thinking that way slowly. And they slowly start stumbling the fact that, okay, the great the great disaster was worse than we've been led on to believe.
Right.
As you slowly start delving deeper, because you only see the fringes of the bad shit.
Yeah, and when you start getting deeper, it's like reality is warping and it starts going like full on chaos waste in places.
Right. And also, you've got another thought that just popped in my head, is that while the wild does have sort of has an civilization angle to it, their big enemy is the what's actually in the middle, though.
Yes.
And they're so like the forest is such as slowly trying to creep inwards to help like purify the land almost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so there's a whole how much do the players and like the and the remnants of the remnants of civilization, how much they work alongside the wild to drive out the aberrant?
Right.
Because
because as creepy and scary as the wild can be, it's the only option for driving out the Frank Cthulhu spawn.
right.
Because it's the only thing that can.
Right. And so, is one possible overarching theme is, can a compromise be reached with the denizens of the wild?
And do the wild even want one?
Well, the question is, maybe the wild turns out the wild need one that they just don't know. I mean, and that's one of the things that you can decide later on.
And then you've got like political infighting with like rabid druids and like she nobles
and like the unseelie courts.
Yeah, as each wants a different thing out of what's going on.
Right.
So yeah, the closer everything seems like United Front, but the closer you look at it, the more fractionalized it becomes.
Right.
And you have the same thing with the Aberrants. Like, it seems like they're just out to eat reality and destroy mankind, blah, blah, blah.
But there are some that have their own goals and ambitions.
Exactly. So you end up with, like beholders, and that's actually just what they want. They're like, I will be the only living thing in reality, blarg, because I'm a beholder. But then you have, like, say, Ilthid, who are, like, all about, like, harvesting this reality and and using the resources to their own ends. So you have a war between the beholders and the Ilthid.
Right. Okay, that's good. Good long-term stuff there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got some long-term arc stuff going on, and then we've got a beginning. So we've got a beginning and a couple of potential ends.
Yeah.
You know, refound the Empire on its own. Refound the Empire with in sort of an alliance, with a compromise with the Wild, so that there's a balance between the two almost.
Yeah, we could even like present the highly unlikely possibility of an alliance with some of the more moderate things from the
like the ones
epicenter.
that like there's some of the aberrants like actually desire actual order and stability.
Yes, like the whole idea of like, well, some of the aberrants like find the whole idea of reality to be an affront. That there are some who like who just crowd around it and want to be like a bonfire.
Right.
So yeah, there are some that want the reality and stuff to provide.
Or see it as necessary or something.
Yeah. Oh, we should. They're aberrants. They shouldn't be too scrutable.
Right. Exactly.
They should be completely alien in their thoughts.
It's like it doesn't make any sense why they desire it, but they apparently do.
Yeah.
Okay, we got some good stuff there. All right, so we have built a beginning framework of a campaign here, and from there, so the question is, where do we go from there? Is the thing? I mean, this is sort of the big the basic big picture stuff.
This is the big world building stuff we're doing here.
Right. So we got to sort of get down to some bit more nitty gritty here. So I think the next thing we should probably talk about is that starting village. Where do the players start? So
yeah, the thing is, which do we want them to encounter as the initial threat? Do we want them closer to the epicenter or closer to the fringes?
Right.
Like, do we want them dealing with like that? Do we want them dealing with which type of thing do we want preying on them?
I would lean towards more starting out as an opposition to the Wild for a couple of reasons.
When it's more, it's less sanity shattering.
Right. That's a big part of it. Is it's less weird.
Yeah.
More importantly, though, I think it sets up a nice little, sort of nice twist when the players realize that the big threat are the aberrants, and the only true defense against it is the Wild.
Right. Yeah, the only, like, you can't start tilling soil when it's growing tentacles.
Right.
You have to let the trees and weeds and stuff go first.
Right.
To draw out all the
weird shit.
Yeah, all the screaming teeth out of the soil.
Exactly. So I think starting out like it's like they're not right on the there's not like, you know, they're the village in question is sort of like it's a nice sort of like a woodland village,
Mm.
and about as it's not like idyllic, but it's it's not too bad.
Yeah, you've got like your nice thatched roofs and like
Some like somewhat functional farmland.
yeah,
Not like
actual blacksmith that knows how to make things besides shoes and nails.
right. And there's hunting and such like that. So you got like a nice simple little village, and maybe there's like another village nearby. It's maybe a little bit bigger village that's off like a maybe a day's travel away,
Mm.
like a bigger village, almost a town even. Ooh, a town.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be like the local trade hub.
Right.
Like it's on a river.
There we go. Yes, exactly.
And that's why it's a local trade hub. Yeah, there we go.
But the village where the players are from, I mean, the obvious thing is it's attacked by goblin raiders. I mean, that's just
Yeah. We could their big export could be lumber actually.
from the village. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For having them encounter the wild forest, having their big export be lumber would be a good place to start.
Exactly. So it's a village. They've got lumber yards. They've got just enough farmland to support themselves. If not like in total comfort, but there's enough
Right.
food for everybody
Yeah.
to survive on.
No one starves.
No one starves, but winter
But
like
no
winters
one's
are
getting fat either.
winters get difficult.
Yeah.
All right, and everybody has to pitch in,
Yes.
which gets us to the traditional relative gender equality of D&D,
Right.
because everybody has to pitch in at this point.
Except for the village idiot,
Well,
who's not actually an idiot. He's just he's got screaming teeth in his brain.
oh no,
So
I
he's sort of like
okay, I can see that.
He has, yeah, he's not actually functional because he's basically a paranoid schizophrenic. But his ravings are the more lunatic his ravings get, the closer bad shit is.
okay.
Is the village early warning system?
I can see that. That's one. I hadn't thought of that. I started leaning towards more that it's a front, and he's sort of the eyes and ears of the Reconstructionists.
He could be that too, honestly.
Yeah, actually,
Like he's got the sensitivity, he just plays. He's got the spooky stuff sensitivity, but he's a lot more lucid than he lets on.
right. I like that actually. So it's both. He is
Yes.
crazy, but he's functional.
Yes.
He just doesn't let on that he's functional most of the time
Right.
because he wants people to underestimate him.
Yeah, he's actually like maybe even genius level intelligence. He just has difficulty concentrating on anything for a particular length of time.
All right, I like
So-
this. This is a good. This is a good NPC.
And yeah, part of the reason is I don't know he drank radioactive water or something. I don't know.
Or he got stuck out in the waste at some point when he was doing
Yeah.
doing some research. He was out looking for he was out in the waste looking for like a crucial book on building aqueducts or something, or like the ability
Yeah,
to make
and some
or,
yeah,
or maybe like the
some
ability to make
magical. He
steel.
got caught some sort of magical gale that just sort of like screwed his brain, but left him with the ability to feel the unnatural.
Something like that. Yeah.
So like when goblins show up, he knows that they're coming because we'll decide that goblins are fake creatures this time around.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. Okay, so there we go. So there's one major NPC for the village, and the reason he's in the village is it's because of that ability to sense the strange. He knows something big is going to happen in this village at some point in the near future, and he
Right.
knows he has to be there. He just doesn't fully understand why yet. And of course, the thing he has to be there for is the founding of the adventuring party.
Yes, because he has visions. Because why wouldn't he?
There we go. Yep. All right, so you got him as one major NPC. I mean, I think the village blacksmith has to be a major NPC because
Yeah, because the village blacksmith is always a major NPC.
right. And he's the guy who's going to be making the basic starting stuff for the players. I mean,
Yeah, here's your chainmail, here's your sword, go slay goblins.
Yeah, he's managed to hang on to like an old book on making on weapon
Yeah,
making and armor.
Oh, that's the other thing is he's actually the part of the reason why you get any business at all because he actually understands metallurgy.
Right. He can make up.
So you trade lumber so the village trades lumber for ore from a mining town down the river on the other side of the trade hub, and then he turns the ore into
Iron.
he and his assistant turns the ore into actual useful stuff.
Right.
And which then gets sold at the trade hub.
Right. So he knows how to make iron. Ooh.
Yeah, he knows how to make steel.
No, I think we should save steel for later.
Okay.
That's one of the things that they should be questing for. I think.
Okay.
I think it's just
this is how you add carbon to iron to make it into steel.
Because turning iron ore into iron is something it'd be hard to make steel with at a village blacksmithery.
You can do it.
You could do it. It'd just be hard. I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think they made steel's been around for?
Oh, it's been around for a long time. Absolutely.
How do you think they made it beforehand? The blacksmith knew how to smelt shit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying that if we want to, I mean, steel. The whole what level of tech for the weapon there doesn't really matter, honestly.
Yeah.
Steel, iron, whatever. I mean, I just like the idea of.
I'm thinking like actual iron weapons tend to be pretty damn brittle and break a lot.
Sure, but this is D&D. But
yeah,
I can see.
Which is why you didn't see a lot of actual iron weapons. You saw a lot of bronze, because it was easy to replace. And then when they figured out steel, that's when you started getting actual.
All right, yeah, we'll go with steel then. That's fine. I just think some sort of metallurgy technology that the players go looking for at some point would be nice.
Oh no, like high carbon steel.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
Certainly, or the ability to what's Damascus.
Something along the lines of Damascus steel, yeah. All right,
yeah,
so you're folding,
which holds an edge like a bastard. So,
all right, so
so like they find a sword of sharpness. It's not a sword of sharpness. It's just a Damascus steel sword that from the old empire. It was what they had standard back then.
Something like that. But I mean, we got plenty of magic that's gonna be happening. I mean, so
yeah.
But yeah, so he's but yeah, he's got some books. He's got some books on like forging and smelting and such that he's been passed down through his family.
Read. Yeah,
he can actually read. He's literate. Well, I think most of the villages can be literate at this point. I mean,
okay,
just because that makes things easier.
Who's really big on making sure that you can read your own scripture.
Right, exactly. So yeah, there's a village priest.
Because there's always a village priest in here.
Right, and
how do we want
that's the next
of the gods to happen? Actually, that's a major world building thing that we completely skipped over.
We did. You're right, and that's what I was just about to ask the question. All right, so what sort of pantheon do we want?
Yeah.
I mean, do we want something monotheistic, or do we want something?
Are they in this world?
I would say it's very likely that they're not very interventionist at this point.
But they used to be. Something about the catastrophe severed a lot of their ability to interact.
So all they can do at this point is basically, grant powers, grant spells. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, so we got that.
Yeah, like the. Not sure what kind of pantheon want right now, but like it was not uncommon for the emperor during the emperor's coronation for an actual manifestation of like a minor avatar of the gods to show up.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, to bless his reign, and it's considered really, really bad if you don't get a good avatar.
Interesting. Okay. All right, so we got that, and we could, yeah. All right, so we got that.
So the thing is, do we want poly or monotheistic?
I think we want polytheistic because it's D&D.
Yeah, because it's D&D. Okay, fair enough.
It's just so, but like the village priest is a priest of one of the like the sun god or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like maybe like either the sun god or the patron of farmers.
Fertility god.
Something like that.
Because,
but it's
I don't know about. Oh no, the craftsman of the gods.
Ooh,
that's
okay.
the priest of, because you got all the lumber and you've got the whatchamacallit, the blacksmith.
But his church is not like mono denominational because that'd be
Right.
stupid. The other gods do exist.
We have them there. It's just I have a particular affinity for
I myself am a
Bob the Builder,
I'm a follower of of the Smith,
of Bob the Builder. Yeah.
but I have immense amounts of respect for the other gods. But I can lead basic.
You could. They could even not you really have names. It could be you could do it like the like the Seven from Game of Thrones,
Right, they've just got
where
titles.
it's more like different aspects of like the you've got like the king and the priestess and the farmer and the smith and
Okay,
warrior and like and their actual names are like really big deal like holy secrets,
right. Okay.
and that's where things like word of pain or like
Yes, exactly.
or
That's
heal that kind of shit comes from. It's not you actually utter the god's name.
good. Okay, I like it. I like it. I like it. All right, so we got that. All right, so and there probably is like another minor priest or priestess that deals with some of the
Yeah,
other gods there too.
some
But
sort of like a lay priest for all intents and purposes.
right, exactly. So that's another major. The village elder is, of course, another obvious, major important character. The mayor or village elder, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, who I think,
It's Germanic.
what?
The Burgermeister, because I've just decided it's Germanic.
Okay. So the Burgermeister,
You've got Black Forest. You've got weird monsters of the woods. You've
Yep.
got like shattered empires. Yeah, we're gonna do Germanic.
all right. So we got that. All right. So at that point, my thought for the village elder is he's the one who actually is in contact with the old witch.
Yes. Yeah. He's secretly like the equivalent of like a devourer cultist or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, his family has been a long line of followers of the wild, basically.
Yeah.
Like not like followers of the wild, but like he.
He's sort of like
The thing is, his family's done well for themselves in this in the aftermath because they now like they run he runs the village. He's in charge, and things are better for he and his now. It's a simpler time. It's one of those that sort of crap. And I don't think he's like a big ally. He's more of an ally of the old witch and not the unsealed this like the Fae is what I'm thinking. What do you think, Eric? Eric? Hello? I think we may have lost Eric here. Yes, we have. Give me a second here, guys, while we try to get Eric back. But so that's what I'm thinking. Hello? Well, Eric's having connection issues, I think. I think I'm still streaming. I am. All right. So that is sort of, where we are with the game. Hopefully we'll get Eric back here shortly. But to answer a question from the Bob in the chat asked, are the gods going to be, his name is blank, god of blank, or are you going to have gods that are vague force like spirits of blank force of blank? Sort of somewhere in between, I think, is what we're aiming for, the Bob. We're aiming for more, as Eric said, they are individuals, and it would be named god of like smithing, Bob, god of smithing. But they're only really known by their titles, and like only at the as Eric said, like it's a deep secret, like a deep holy secret, what their actual names are, and invoking a god's name is an act of great power.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, that was really weird. My internet just completely derped for some reason.
I kind of guessed. So I was just so what I was saying before I realized that I was not hearing anything back from you. I was talking. I'm like, wait, Eric's not responding at all. Uh-oh.
No, I completely lost internet connection for briefly there, and I don't know why. I was about to go downstairs and futz with the router when the page I was testing finally loaded.
Woohoo! All right. So what I was saying is, I think the village elder. I like the idea of him being, associated with like the old witch, but not like the rest of the fae.
Yes.
And that part of the reason that he's done this is because after the catastrophe, things have actually weirdly have improved for his family overall. Like,
Yeah.
Like as part of the family line, like all of a sudden they're important. So it's not so much that like it's like yes I deeply worship these strange weird beings. No, it's I work with the old witch. She knows what she's talking about. This
Right.
is the way things are now is an improvement. There are things that can be better than what it is now, also, but we can't go back to the way it was.
Because that just doesn't work.
But there's stuff that needs to be fixed.
Because it doesn't work for me, rather.
Right. And also, and he'd still be antagonistic towards the large numbers like the goblins and all the raiding forces from the Fae because
Right.
they threaten what's his.
That shit's important.
Right.
Because it's mine.
So it's not that he's a bad guy, it's just that he's a little selfish.
Yeah. Which honestly makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And he genuinely cares about the village. And it just he wants things to improve for the village, but
Yeah.
partially because it makes his stuff better, but also because he can't if the village is. I mean, he has does have sort of a sense of noblesse oblige almost.
Right. But he's still going to get his.
Oh, absolutely, because he's in charge. It's his stuff. He's the one who has to make the hard decisions.
Exactly. And how dare you not let me have my 10 pounds of bourbon each day,
Or what
whatever.
have you. I mean, again, we don't want to make him to a bad guy, but he's
not a bad guy, but
he'll end up being an obstacle, I think.
Yes.
I like it.
He's yeah.
And he's also the one who will end up effectively introducing the party to the old witch or her or lackeys or what have you. All right, so we got that. Are there any other major? There should also be just so that if someone wants to play a wizard type, there should be like an old coot wizard, often a hut, like hedge wizard type, often a hut, like just outside the village.
Yeah.
Who is everyone sort of he thinks he knows real magic.
He thinks he knows secrets, but really he's just some crazy guy talks to his cat. Turns out he talks to his cat because it's his familiar.
Right. And he actually, he's not like a super powerful wizard, but he knows things, and he's So we got a sort of old hedge wizard off there, who would be another source of things for the players to do. And he'll often be a font of knowledge that the players have to find some way to get it out of him, because being a solitary wizard type, he's loath to give away information. There has to be an equivalent exchange.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not so.
I
It's not so
definitely
much. It's he's greedy for knowledge or anything like that. It's that he just doesn't. He part of the way he works is that you can't get it's just giving away something for nothing is it sort of goes against the way things should work as far as he's concerned or something like that.
Yeah. He's of course of course I need something in return, because otherwise you can't make something from nothing. There needs to be something there.
Right. Things would be out of balance.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
okay, so there we go. So we got another major NPC. Another, and as I said, a source for information and quests and stuff. And there we go. I liked your idea when you mentioned the bourbon thing. It makes me think, yeah, there should be a brewer in town.
Yeah.
Got
Oh, absolutely. There's always a brewer in town. Why wouldn't there be?
All right, so we got that. I mean, otherwise, I mean, given that aqueducts are in plumbing and such has gone the way of the dodo at this point, how else are you going to get things like potable beverages?
Yeah. You got to have alcohol somehow. Everyone's going to die of dysentery.
Right, exactly. All right. And as I said, the first adventure is, we've got the village idiot sort of, making noises about, things coming in the night and such, and the
Right.
players end up being in the position to help organize the defense against attacking goblins, and that's where things begin.
Yes.
By a raid at night by goblins.
Yeah, that makes yeah, I like that.
Right, and so from there, what things we'd have to do to further develop things would be, to fully flesh out the pantheon of the gods, and to fully further detail out the major NPCs in town and some minor NPCs, and then we'd eventually move on to we'd finish out the village, and then from there we'd build outwards to the trade hub and the other town, the other village on the other side that the mining village that sends down the ore. And then from there we expand out into the wild and into the aberrant plains and such. And that's sort of the core of building. We've just sort of built a really good core of a campaign, I think. Actually,
Yeah, actually. I mean, obviously, certain things are only going to start to come to fruition once we have actual characters.
Once you have player characters, because there's certain things you can't do until you know what the player characters are.
Yeah.
And what their relations to the village would be. And I think that basically is going to be it. I mean, we've been going we're just about out of time, so. But yeah, they basically, a lot of these NPCs could serve as mentors to the players too, like the blacksmith, especially the blacksmith, the wizard, and the village idiot. All of them being potentially very good, very interesting mentors in their own weird ways. And the village,
even the burgermeister,
and the priest, and
yeah. The Burgermeister can actually be a great mentor for for an opportunistic thief kind of deal.
Right. Oh, and we forgot the guy who leads the hunting parties to go out and get game and stuff.
Oh yeah, obviously the local ranger.
Right.
He's clearly a ranger.
And there's probably some old crazy druid out in the woods too somewhere.
Yeah.
Who actually, I like this.
The old crazy druid might actually be a player character.
Sure, he could be a player character. I was thinking the other possibility is he's actually he and the hedge wizard are actually old friends. They argue all the time.
Right.
But they're actually friends.
That's actually kind of yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, they visit one another's hovels for tea.
Right, and get into long running arguments about things.
What do you make this tea out of? Pine cones? Oh, yours is so much better made using whatever weeds grow near that pathetic thing of a garden you call. Oh, and they argue back and forth about tea for 2 hours.
Exactly. So I think that rounds out the basic cast of characters. I think.
Yeah.
We definitely did forget the hunter and the ranger and the druid. Those guys had to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter what gender, I mean, gender assignments are entirely fluid at this point.
Yeah, it's yeah, absolutely. There's no reason why the crazy old wizard and the druid couldn't be women or men, or maybe they're actually an old married couple that just
I kind of like that actually.
Really don't get along together when they live together.
I kind of like that actually. That's actually kind of hilarious, honestly.
Yeah, actually.
They are like an old married couple because they are. At any rate, guys, I I think
Yeah,
that's
and when the player characters fight, it's like, why don't you live together? Her feet get cold and she sticks them in my back.
he's a complete slob.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Anyways, guys,
Have you tried her cooking? Have you tried his cooking?
what's wrong with my cooking? Well, what's wrong with mine? At any rate, so I think that's going to do it for this week. I hope you all found this useful and enjoyable, or enjoyable, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is a much better campaign concept than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, this
is actually a really good
held remarkably well.
This is actually a really good campaign concept. I may have to go and take notes, like listen to this again at some point and take notes. At any rate, guys, that's going to be it for this week. Normally, we save time at the end of each episode for questions from the viewers. We didn't get any this week, so that's why we didn't save any time for that. But if you do have questions for us, we love getting them.
Yes, the questions are awesome.
Yeah, so if you've got questions for us, if you've got feedback for us, ways we can improve the show, constructive criticism, etc., things we need to improve on, especially, we really can always use that.
Yeah, that's really useful stuff.
Help us make the show better. And if you've got show topic suggestions, we adore those. Please send them in to us. We've got an email address. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com, surlygrognards@yahoo.com, or you can post them on our forums, which you can find at mechagm.forumer.com. We record the show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern here on twitch.tv/mechagm. I tweet out when the show's going to be going live. Keep an eye on my Twitter. My Twitter handle is @mechagm. If you want to hit me up there with questions and such for the show, or a show topic suggestion or anything like that, feel free to do that there also. I also upload the recordings of the show to my YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/mechagm. So if you listen to the show on YouTube, please feel free, if you really enjoyed it, please feel free to hit like and subscribe. That's always awesome.
Yes.
And that's it for this week, though, I think.
Yep, I think we're done for the week.
So any last thoughts before we go on campaign building? Or on this particular set of campaign building?
Do it slightly sleep-depped.
Apparently that works brilliantly, because we came up with something that I think both of us like.
Yeah.
Wait, we both like this, Eric.
This is impossible. Scrap the whole thing. It's just clearly reality is wrong.
God, we're leading up to the magical apocalypse. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
The aberrants are showing up. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys soon. Be happy, be safe, keep on gaming, guys, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye, humans.